The Filipinos, a charming people with warm and infectious smiles, an adaptable people, at home in any setting. The Filipino's easy smile reveals a cheerful approach to life. Filipinos find humor in almost anything. Through good times and bad, they laugh and crack jokes. Beneath the laughter is a resilient spirit, an asset required of a people whom God has destined to play a vital role in His master plan, particularly for Asia. It is one of history's incredible facts that the overall conquest of the Philippines was achieved more by the cross than by the sword. In the 17th century, attempts to abandon the Philippines were vetoed 3 times by Spanish monarchs, mindful of their spiritual mission to this archipelago of more than 7,000 islands. Had the Spaniards abandoned the Philippines, the country would have been colonized by the Dutch, the British, or the French, who did not interfere with the religious beliefs of their subjects. The Philippines might have then embraced any of the religions of her neighbors, such as communism. China at the north came under the banners of Great Britain and Japan. When the communists took over in 1949, the country was declared officially atheistic. Since then, China, with her more than 1 billion people, became a huge challenge for Christian mission. Hinduism. India in the west was a British tributary. The country became predominantly Hindu, with people adhering to as many as 300 million gods. Islam. Indonesia, a neighbor in the south, was a Dutch colony for 350 years. Today, she has the world's largest Muslim population. Very near Indonesia is Malaysia, which came under the British flag and has likewise embraced Islam. Buddhism. The French ruled Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia. Buddhism easily became these countries' major religion, stunted only by their fall in 1975 to communism. Thailand, though never ruled by any Western power, is steeped in mixed Buddhism and animism. And there is Burma, another former British colony, where it is popularly held that to be a Burmese is to be a Buddhist. With all these Buddhist, Muslim, Hindu, and communist neighbors surrounding her, the Philippines stands as the only Christian nation in the Far East, the light of Asia. The coming of the Americans after 4 centuries of Spanish rule drove the Christian faith deeper into the Filipino spirit. While some may doubt the sincerity of the United States in coming to the Philippines, it cannot be denied that many American missionaries were used by God to evangelize the Filipino people and to bring Bibles to them for the first time. Very easily, the Philippines could have carried the light of Christ to other nations as early as the 1950s, when her economy was at its peak, next only to Japan's. Yet, despite her high level of literacy, rich natural resources, and availability of managerial and technical skills, the Philippines did not live up to the World Bank's high economic expectations. In a sea of plenty, say economists, the Philippines has done what seems impossible, to create an economic mess. Could it be that despite her rich Christian heritage and great potentials, the church in the Philippines was not yet prepared to serve her calling as a witness to the nations? In God's economy, every vessel of honor has to go through the fires of testing and purification. So for decades, the country suffered under weak governments, a repressive dictatorship, and in recent years, a series of natural and man-made disasters in increasing intensity. In 1989, a string of destabilizing military coups. In 1990, the most destructive earthquake in memory struck northern Luzon, followed by a killer typhoon which paralyzed the booming city of Cebu. In 1991, After 600 years of inactivity, Mount Pinatubo erupted, burying provinces and towns in the worst volcanic eruption in history. Most tragic of all were the flash floods in November that washed away Ormoc Leyte, leaving thousands of people dead. As a result, chronic poverty, unemployment, and uncertainty became the lot of over 70% of the Philippine population. Believers in the Philippines raised one voice to God, crying out for mercy and help. Through it all, their faith did not waver, proving God's reality more in times of adversity. Yes, the Filipino Christians are a tried and tested people. They have passed through the fire. They have a message to share with their fellow Asians. Missionaries have described visions of the Philippines as a warrior with a flaming sword of the Spirit and an erupting volcano spewing forth not lava, but men and women armed with Bibles going to Asia and the regions beyond. It now appears that the exodus of Filipino contract workers to the Middle East and the rest of Asia is an actual fulfillment of these prophecies and not solely for economic reasons. Hundreds of underground churches in these areas are mostly being pioneered and spearheaded by Filipinos. Filipino migrants are bringing about a silent revival to these regions that are rather closed to traditional missions. In Hong Kong and other affluent Asian countries, it is also exciting to hear reports of conversions through the ministry of Filipinos presently working there. Several reasons point to the Filipinos as ideal candidates to be the apostles of the last days in this vast continent. 1. Adaptability. Centuries of exposure to various cultures, Asian, European, Latin, and American, made the Filipinos the most cosmopolitan people, able to adapt to any culture or situation. 2. Asian features. With their black hair and brown skin, Filipinos can blend well with fellow Asians without being noticed or drawing attention to themselves. 3. Use of the English language. Many Filipinos speak English, which is the market language worldwide. The Philippines is now the third largest English-speaking country in the world, next only to the United States and Great Britain. 4. Peaceful relations with neighbors. The Philippines does not have any history of aggression or violent border disputes with her Asian neighbors, giving Filipinos a greater advantage in bringing the gospel. 5. Geographic and strategic location. 6 out of every 10 people in the world can be reached in only 2 to 5 hours by plane from Manila. With Indonesia to the south, China to the northwest, Japan and Korea to the northeast, India and Indochina to the west, the Philippines very clearly offers a geographic and strategic base for world evangelism. Today, the Philippines has not only become the rampart of Christianity in the Orient, but an easy jumping board to bring the gospel to the unreached peoples of Asia. With the decline of the West in terms of spiritual and moral influence in global affairs, the Philippines, now equipped and made ready for the task, is expected to play a great missionary role in Asia and farther beyond. In the midst of seemingly endless woes, God has prepared the Filipinos to take the nations for Jesus. Rise up, Pearl of the Orient. Rise up, the time of your great visitation has come. Arise, ye mighty people of valor. Heed your prophetic and apostolic call. No longer will you be the tail, but you shall be the head. Your future will be greater than your past. No longer will you be conquered, but you shall conquer. Tribes, nations, peoples, and tongues, in the name of the Most High.